Hello everybody, this is Tony with Kate's Crafty Closet, and today I'm here to show you how I made this distressed looking watercolor card. I'm using liquid watercolor, and I also used some liquid pixie dust, and I went ahead and used some alcohol ink. So if you like this card, stick around and I'll show you how I created. So this is the stamp set that I used. And I will link the products that I use in today's video down below in the description box. This is a Stampendous stamp, and we're going to go ahead and use that. And the first thing that I would do is I ink it up with my ink on 3 Blackout ink, because this is good for alcohol ink markers and also good for your watercoloring as well. So I would just go ahead and take a piece, ink it up, take a piece of watercolor cardstock today. This is distressed watercolor cardstock, and I would ink it up with that, and I would just lay it down on here and flatten it out with my hands, because it gets a better impression than trying to pick up the stamp and placing it on there. So I just find that a lot easier to do. So I already went ahead and inked up that stamp onto my watercolor paper, and this is what I got. And I'm okay that I don't get a perfect impression because I want it to look distressed. So it's like on the textured side of the watercolor paper, you don't get a full impression because you have these little grooves in the paper. If you want to use the smoother side because you don't want to get any of those grooves on there and that distressed look, you most certainly can do that. And I'll show you an example of that. This is how it would look on the other opposite side of the distressed watercolor paper, so you get a more blended look. It's perfectly done. So, and also I went ahead, because I want a distressed look, I went ahead and took my Tim Holtz distresser from Tonic Studios, and basically this is really simple. You just slide it across your paper until you get the distressed look that you want, and you can just clean off the fibers as you want and keep going as far as you want to go depending on the look that you want. And you can use that on all types of paper. So I'm going to go ahead and use today is these Brea Reese liquid watercolors that I picked up. This one is going to be pink, so we're going to go ahead and start off with that. And I'm going to go, something that I've been using a lot in my craft room are these little wells for, you can use this for your alcohol inks, you can use this for your liquid watercolor, your regular watercolor, my liquid pixie dust. So I just find this to be like a staple item in my craft room. And I have, you can get, there's a pack of 6 at Dollar Tree for $1. So I'm just gonna go ahead and squeeze out about 7-8 drops in one well. And then the other one, I'm gonna go with like 5. And the one that has the 5 in it, I'm going to just go ahead and add some water to it. I just have some water standing over here, and I'm just gonna grab it with my paintbrush and let it drop in there. And you can always go back and fix that to your liking. And I'm just gonna go ahead and grab, and I'm just gonna color in my image here. And I'm okay if I go outside the lines, because with the watercolor, it's very forgiving and it just gives it that organic look. So I'm going to leave the centers kind of white, because we're going to go back in with darker, like the full strength liquid watercolor, to fill in some of those areas. So just have fun with it. It's like, so I'm okay with it. I just love watercolor because I love, you know, just the fun, the flowiness of it all. And like, don't be afraid to go outside the lines when it comes to watercolor. So that is the lighter shade. And remember, it absorbs into the paper, so it's gonna dull out a little bit. So here is our darker color. So the first thing I'm gonna do is, this is just no water mixed in with the liquid watercolor, and I'm just gonna fill in all the centers of those. And then we're gonna go back and highlight some areas onto the image, just to give it a little bit of accent and a little bit more dimension. And it's okay to have white space. So just pick some areas where you want to make it darker. I don't really have a method behind it. It's just kind of do what you want to do, because this is going to be your art piece, so it's going to be yours. So you do it to your liking. And like I said, it will slowly absorb into the paper, and it will mute itself a little bit. So if you want to go back later on and there's some areas you want to make dark, or you can go back and add a little bit of water to it to tone it down. It's like, it's just completely up to you. It's kind of like, sometimes you might come back to it later and it's like, okay, it didn't dry how I anticipated. And I always try to put a little bit darker where the colors set, where the flowers kind of blend together, so you see the separation of one flower to the next. And like I said, there's really no right or wrong way to do that. So I'm going, like I said, I'm going to leave white space in there because I'm totally okay with that. And so for the leaves, I got one little spot here at the top, this little bud up there. If you want to leave it blank, you can. I'm just going to dab it. And the next thing we're going to go ahead and do is, like, normally most people don't use alcohol inks when it comes down to you know, you on watercolor paper, but it's totally fine and totally okay for you to do that. So this is the same company, the Brea Reese. This is some Kelly Green alcohol ink, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to squeeze out a little bit at a time because it does absorb quickly and dry out quickly. So make sure you put your cap back on, and I will squirt some alcohol that I have in my distress sprayer, and I'm just going to squirt it into the well, just enough to give me a little bit of wiggle room to grab. And I'm going to take a bigger brush, and the thing we're going to do first is, like, we're going to go in and we're going to just dab on this color kind of to mimic grass, and just add more to your palette as you need it. So I just use a bigger brush because I can blot it. And remember, it's not going to move on your watercolor paper. It instantly absorbs into it. So, but like I said, this is more of a distress look, and I'm totally fine and okay with it. I'm just adding a little bit more of that Kelly Green, and I'm going to grab some alcohol and squirt it in there again as well, and we'll pick it up, and we're going to continue to put on here till we're happy. And if it has white space in there, I'm totally okay with that. Like, this will take a little bit more time to finish because it's alcohol, and you don't get, like, with the watercolor, you don't get that movement, and which is totally fine. It's totally fine, but I just like the fact that it's a little bit distressy. Like, it's like the grass. I absolutely think it's fun, and so I'm okay with that. And like I said, you can always go back and add more if you need to. So that to me is done. And then I'm going to go ahead in with the smaller brush and grab some more of that alcohol ink in my palette so we can do our leaves. And any kind of alcohol inks will work. And like, you don't have to use the alcohol inks like I am today, but I just wanted to show that you can do that. And the fact that I can dilute this a little bit with some alcohol, and then I'll come back over it with straight alcohol ink, just so we have a little bit more of a, you know, transition between the leaves. So I'm just going to quickly just paint the leaves, and it's like, I'm not trying to stay in the lines, like, seriously, I'm not. And I don't mind leaving the white space, because it does, the white space serves a purpose when it comes down to watercolor. It leaves it a little bit of a 3D dimension when you have a little bit of white space. Otherwise, when you color it incompletely, it goes flat. If that's the look you're looking for, nothing wrong with that. Totally nothing wrong with that. So I'm going to go in and grab some more of the alcohol ink. And remember, if you don't use it all, just leave it there, and you can always reactivate it with some alcohol or some blending solution. And with the watercolors, you can reactivate with the that. So, and the alcohol, when you put too much on the over the ink, it can make it bleed a little bit, but I'm okay with that. It just gives it a more, like I said, a more organic look and feel to that, and more distressy look. So I'm okay with that. If you're not, then don't use the alcohol ink. But like I said, it's not, I'm just dabbing it. So if you go ahead and spread with your paintbrush, you get a whole completely different look. So we have that taken care of. And the next thing, make sure you put your caps on everything so you don't dry out and you don't spill it. And so the next thing I'm going to have is I have my ink on 3 liquid pixie dust. You know, this is like one of my favorite products of all times right now in my craft room. So make sure you shake it up really, really well to spread the glitter and all that fun stuff. And I'm just going to put some on my mat right here. Like I'm squeeze a little bit out with the eyedropper. Then I'm going to go ahead and grab that brush again. Even it's a little bit wet, which I'm totally okay. And I'm going to spread it around. And I'm just going to blot. Remember, don't with the it's a wet medium, so it can definitely spread your watercolor a little bit. So that's why I'm going to dab. If I went ahead and painted like I would, how I did with the liquid watercolor, will get. It'll move, and which is, it's okay if it does, but I like to dab so I have a little bit more control over my pixie dust. And then I'm going to go ahead and grab a little bit more because I've used it all up. And then I'll grab a little bit more water in the brush, and then I'm going to go ahead and finish. And you can put the liquid pixie dust anywhere you want. I'm choosing just to put it on the blooms. You can put it on your leaves, you can put it on your background, you can put it down in the grass. Completely up to you, and how much you use is totally completely up to you. So I'm going to put that away. I'm going to kind of show you what it looks like with the pixie dust. It's pretty shimmery and shiny. Like I said, this is definitely a watercolor look. So I have a video that I'm going to link at the end of this showing you how I created this ribbon. So I had some pink ribbon, but it was too light for me. I wanted it to match my roses, so to speak. So what I went ahead and did is I took some of the liquid watercolor and I painted my ribbon. So as long as your ribbon is very absorbent, when it comes down to a medium, you can make it match the liquid watercolors or alcohol inks that you use, because you can also put alcohol inks on this as well. I don't suggest using a heat tool because you have a tendency that you could burn this material, because it's not like paper. I actually will put it outside if it's a warm sunny day, or just lie it on your craft mat right here, and it really doesn't take much to use. It really doesn't take much to dry either. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my art glitter glue, and I'm just really going to put it on the cardstock here, the watercolor, the painting, so I know where I kind of want it. I'm not going to put like a huge layer because I don't want it to kind of show through, and I'm just going to spread it a little bit so it doesn't show through on the ribbon, and warp it. So I'm just going to lie this down on here. And I also went ahead and added liquid pixie dust to straight to the ribbon, painted it straight to the ribbon. So art glitter glue is one of the best liquid adhesives that I've ever used, and highly recommend that. And I just go ahead and make sure I put my needle back in and let that dry for a second. And once it's dry, we can just kind of go ahead and trim it off with a pair of scissors, or at the moment, I'm just going to use this rotary tool because it's close by. And I'm just going to cut that ribbon off the best I can. And I will just take some more glue and add a little bit to the end of the ribbon like this, and I will fold it over. And like, if you want to just trim it off completely off the edges, you can go ahead and do that. That is completely up to you. But for me, I'm just going to do it like this. Okay, and on the other side, and then we're going to go ahead and make a bow as well to go on top of that. And this, I might be able to make one out of this piece. Like, I like to have a little bit more wiggle room than this. So it's just like, do your best that you can when it comes down to making your bows. Like, don't stress it. If it's wrong, you know, it's okay. I'm just going to go ahead and grab this bigger piece because it's just easier for me to work with. So I just make my bows, and I don't have like super easy technique. I don't have a sure way that it works, and I just play around with it till I get the bow the best bow that I possibly can get from this. And we'll go back and pull, tighten it, until I get the one I like. And so I'm kind of happy with this bow. It works for me. And we're just going to grab a little bit more of our glitter glue, and I'm going to put it on the back of our bow. I'm going to put it on the back of our bow, and then I'm going to hold it in place, because like I said, this will grab rather quickly. And if you want to trim off your tails, trim them off how you want them. Just going to go in with these scissors, and I'm going to trim it down. All right, you can save those little pieces for a mixed media project if you want. And like I said, that doesn't want to stay, but that's okay. We can go back and fix that. We can add a little bit more glue to it. I guess it wasn't enough, and just do that. And if you want to take an acrylic block and put some pressure on it, you certainly can do that. I'm still just going to use my finger here. Okay, and like I said, if it doesn't stick, keep trying until it adheres. It takes a moment. So what I'm going to go ahead and do while that's still kind of drying, I have my We Are Memory Keepers corner punch. I'm going to use the deco side. It shows you on here deco and stub. So I'm going to open it up, use my deco side, and I'm just going to cut the corners off of the two bottom sides. Okay, just to give it a little bit of a decorative edge. And then I have my card panel. This is just some 100-pound black cardstock from Recollections, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to use that deco side, and I'm going to punch the that corner, and then that's going to be our base. So basically, the next thing I'm going to go ahead and do is, like, I'm going to adhere some of these big old foam squares that I always pick up from the Dollar Tree. And I see how I made a mistake earlier when I was doing that, but always recycle it. Don't throw it away. If you messed up one side, just go ahead and use the other side. So I'm just going to lie down, like, generously some of these foam squares. Like, these are also some that I pick up at the Dollar Tree anytime I see them in stock, because they usually sell out pretty quickly. So when I get a case in, there's only 6 of these giant ones. So that's what we do with those. And the next thing I'm going to go in and do is, like, I have these little gemstones that I picked up at the expo, and I'm going to go ahead and put those in onto the center of the flowers, just to give them a little bit of a bling. And I will peel these off, and I'll put some art glitter glue on, and I will adhere it to the front of this card. And then I can add a piece of white paper into the inside, so people can write on it a greeting. So in the end, this is what you get. Here are the little gems that I went ahead and put on the center of the flowers, and this is our card today. So I thank you all for joining me, and if you like this video, please go ahead and hit the thumbs up button for me, and as well as make sure you hit that subscribe button. And also, when the notification bell comes up, you want to go ahead and hit that so you can get notified each and every time I upload a video to YouTube. And I will link, like I said, all the products that I use in today's video in the description box below. You can also find my social media as well. Instagram, I have a Facebook group, a Facebook page, my blog as well. So again, thank you for joining me, and you all have a crafty day.